Nurse rescued pregnant cat from street. Just watch what the cat does next. The tabby cat lived a life of neglect, roaming through gray streets and dark alleys. Her fur was a mix of gray and brown, her eyes seemingly holding a long, untold story that no one had the time to hear. To the city's residents, she was just a shadow, an invisible stray without a name, scavenging for food to survive another day. Her existence was one of shadows, scavenging scraps from trash bins or under outdoor tables at roadside eateries. She had no home to shelter her, only cold street corners where she could rest when exhaustion overcame her or when night fell. Each day was a battle against hunger, eking out a meager existence from the trash, and against fear when dogs lunged at her in pursuit. The tabby's life, already steeped in loneliness and indifference, grew heavier with the realization that she was pregnant. The kittens growing inside her reminded her with persistent H's that the time of their birth was drawing near. She didn't understand how she had come to this an abandoned stray with no refuge or caretaker. How could she bring her kittens into such a world? Yet she could abandon them, even if it meant taking risks. She knew she could give birth in the cold corners of the streets or in the stench of a trash bin. That would spell certain death for the kittens who had yet to see the world. She needed a safe place, somewhere to shield her and her babies from the biting cold of the approaching winter. So she resolved to approach the homes of people, hoping for even a sliver of help. The tabby walked through the streets, passing houses with warm yellow light spilling from their windows. These were places she had never dared approach before, knowing that to humans, she was nothing more than a stray, a creature undeserving of attention. But now she had no choice. She needed help. She stopped in front of a small house with a slightly ajar door. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, her movements careful, not wanting to attract attention. But then she heard footsteps from within. A middle-aged woman emerged, her face cold as she looked down at the cat. "Aren't you supposed to be scavenging for food somewhere?" the woman said, her voice tinged with irritation. The tabby looked up at her, her eyes filled with worry, as if pleading for help. But the woman's heart remained unmoved. She shooed the cat away with harsh words. "This isn't your place. Go away." The tabby had no choice but to turn and leave, her steps silent but burdened by the pangs of pain in her belly. She tried other houses, knocking gently, hoping someone might offer her refuge. But each time she was met with rejection. A man in a business suit stood at his door and, seeing her, waved her off with a dismissive gesture. "Go on, get out of here." She didn't protest, silently walking away, her heart heavy with sadness. She couldn't understand why she was treated this way, even though she was just a small, weak creature in desperate need of help. She continued to another house, lured by the smell of delicious food. Peeking through a window, she saw an elderly woman setting a table as if preparing dinner. The aroma made her stomach churn with hunger, but as she drew closer, the woman noticed her and yelled, slamming the door with a look of disdain, "Stray cat, go away." With every rejection, her heart ached a little more. Eventually, she could walk no further. Exhausted and in pain, she stopped in front of another house, where a faint light shone through a crack in the door. This time she didn't rush in but stood quietly, her wary eyes fixed on the entrance. Though her legs trembled with fatigue, she waited, holding on to the faintest sliver of hope. But no opportunity presented itself. She couldn't enter the house, nor could she stay where she was, as the weight of the kittens pressed heavier on her with each passing moment. Every step forward was a struggle, every surge of pain a reminder that she could give birth in this harsh and unfamiliar outdoors. She kept walking, hoping that somewhere, someone might extend a hand or speak a kind word to invite her inside. But the farther she went, the deeper her despair grew. The sky darkened, heavy gray clouds drifting overhead as a cold wind blew. The tabby stood in the middle of the street, her head lowered, feeling utterly drained. She didn't know what to do next. But one thing was certain, she wouldn't give up, because she was a mother, and her kittens awaited their chance to be born. She couldn't let them suffer the same fate she had endured. The tabby cat staggered along, each step slow and heavy. Her swollen belly weighed her down, and the relentless labor pains sapped her strength. Every movement became harder, the contractions growing more intense with every passing moment. She knew she could give birth in the cold, desolate streets where her existence went unnoticed. She needed a place to protect her unborn kittens. Her tired eyes caught sight of a large building ahead. It was a hospital, a place where the sick were cared for and healed. Even though she was just a stray cat, unloved and overlooked, in her moment of despair, she realized this was the only place where she might find help. Step by step, she pushed herself toward the hospital. Her body was exhausted, her legs trembling as if they might give out at any moment. With every painful contraction, she willed herself to keep moving, driven by the faint hope that someone inside the hospital would help her. When she finally reached the hospital doors, her vision blurred with exhaustion. She felt herself collapsing, unable to take another step. The pain overwhelmed her, and she crumpled to the ground at the entrance, lying still as her breathing came in ragged gasps. Emma, night shift nurse, happened to step outside and noticed the motionless figure of the cat at the entrance. She stopped in her tracks, her eyes widening at the sight of the heavily pregnant stray lying there, clearly in distress. Emily couldn't believe what she was seeing, a stray cat at the hospital's doorstep in such critical condition. But as she looked closer, she saw the seriousness of the situation. She couldn't ignore the cat now. Without hesitation, Emily rushed to the tabby's side and knelt down to examine her. She saw the cat's labored breathing and swollen belly, realizing that labor was imminent. Gently, Emily scooped up the cat, cradling her carefully as she hurried inside the hospital. Emily carried the tabby to the emergency room, where medical supplies were close at hand. She quickly prepared everything she thought she might need to assist the cat through the delivery. Though she was an experienced nurse, Emily had never delivered kittens before. But seeing the cat's pain, she knew she couldn't let her suffer alone. A strange bond seemed to form between Emily and the stray in that moment, both vulnerable beings in a vast world. Emily knew she couldn't abandon her. Laying the wary cat on an examination table, Emily stroked her gently, whispering words of comfort. "I'll help you. Don't worry," she murmured as she worked. The tabby didn't resist, too weak to move. Desperate mews conveyed a mix of pain and fragile hope. Though she had never trusted humans, she now placed all her faith in the kind stranger who had taken her in. With patience and care, Emily guided the tabby through her labor. Before long, tiny soft kittens began to emerge, their faint cries filling the room. They were small but alive, each one a testament to their mother's resilience. The sound of the kittens' mews brought tears to Emily's eyes, and she felt an overwhelming sense of relief and joy. The tabby, now named Lily by Emily, lay exhausted but visibly relieved. She gazed at Emily with eyes that seemed to express gratitude, even though she couldn't speak. Emily gently placed a warm blanket over Lily and her newborn kittens, smiling. "You did it," she said, her voice full of warmth. They were beautiful as Lily began to clean and nuzzle her kittens. Emily couldn't help but feel a deep connection to the little family. She knew she couldn't leave Lily and her kittens to fend for themselves. Emily found an empty room in the hospital where they could stay temporarily, safe from the cold and dangers of the outside world. She made a soft bed for Lily and provided food and water, ensuring the new mother and her kittens had everything they needed. Day by day, Emily cared for Lily and her kittens, feeding them and checking on their health. Slowly, a bond grew between Emily and Lily. Every time Emily visited, Lily would look at her with eyes full of gratitude. Emily was no longer a stranger. She had become Lily's one and only friend. Lily, who had once lived a life of loneliness and rejection, now felt safe in Emily's care. Though she had never known love or the warmth of a family, she finally experienced comfort and protection. She realized she was no longer alone. With Emily's kindness, Lily found not just a safe haven for her kittens, but also a new beginning, a name, a family, and a second chance at life. In the days following Lily's rescue and the birth of her kittens, a special bond began to form between the mother cat and Emily. Each morning before her shift, Emily would stop by the room where Lily and her kittens were sheltered. She brought fresh food for Lily and sat nearby, softly talking to the mother cat as she cared for her babies. Despite having lived as a stray, Lily was a devoted mother, tending to her kittens with unwavering love and care, a sight that deeply moved Emily. The connection between Emily and Lily grew stronger with each passing day. Every time Emily met Lily's grateful gaze, she felt a profound sense of belonging in the cat's life. Working at the hospital was demanding, but Emily found immense joy and comfort in returning to Lily and her kittens at the end of each day. She wasn't just a caretaker, she became a companion, offering unconditional love and support. Over time, their relationship blossomed into a true friendship that transcended the boundaries between species. Emily often shared stories about Lily with her colleagues, who gradually came to understand and appreciate the unique bond. The hospital, traditionally a place for humans, had become a sanctuary for Lily and her kittens, thanks to Emily's dedication and compassion. Emily's love and care helped Lily feel safe, and each time she saw Emily, Lily's eyes lit up with trust and affection. These simple, heartwarming moments created an unbreakable bond between the two. Their connection brought fulfillment and joy to both of their lives, proving that love and friendship can flourish in the most unexpected ways. One early morning, as the first rays of sunlight streamed through the windows, Emily prepared to leave for work at the hospital. The streets were quiet, and the crisp morning air brought a sense of peace. She hurriedly put on her nurse's uniform and grabbed her bag, ready for another long day. As always, her thoughts drifted to Lily and her kittens, safely housed in a warm room at the hospital. Despite her busy schedule, Emily felt immense joy in caring for the mother cat and her little ones. But life rarely goes as planned. As Emily walked through a deserted intersection, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from behind her. Turning around, she froze in terror as she saw a pack of pit bulls charging toward her. The dogs were large, muscular, and menacing, their eyes glinting with aggression as they growled and barked. There were at least 4 or 5 of them, and they were coming fast. A wave of fear coursed through Emily's body. She barely had time to scream before one of the dogs lunged at her, knocking her to the ground. The cows of barking, growling and pounding paws surrounded her like a storm. The dogs encircled her, jumping and snap, their powerful bodies overwhelming her as she desperately tried to shield herself. Just when Emily thought all hope was lost, a sharp mew pierced through the chaos. Out of nowhere, a small figure darted into the fray. It was Lily. Despite still recovering from childbirth and tending to her kittens, Lily had rushed out when she heard Emily's screams. Weak but determined, she couldn't stand by while her friend was in danger. Lily's fur bristled, her body tense with resolve. She leapt into the pack of dogs with astonishing speed, claws slashing through the air. Her first strike landed squarely on the face of one pit bull, leaving deep scratches that caused it to yelp in pain and recoil. But Lily didn't stop there. She continued to attack, swiping at the other dogs with fierce determination. Each strike was swift and powerful, and the dogs, startled by her sudden and ferocious defense, began to back away. The pit bulls had seemed unstoppable, but Lily's relentless attacks caught them off guard. Her sharp claws left painful marks on their faces and bodies, and her bravery unnerved them. One by one, the dogs began to retreat, their growls turning into whimpers as they fled. Lily didn't stop until the last dog had disappeared down the street. Breathing heavily, her fur disheveled and marked with scratches, she stood her ground in the middle of the road, her eyes scanning for any lingering threats. Emily, still on the ground, stared in disbelief. The smobby, who had once been a stray wandering the streets, had just saved her from a pack of ferocious dogs. Each swipe of Lily's claws had been a shield of protection, each growl a declaration of loyalty. Lily, however, had not emerged unscathed. She bore several wounds from the dog's bites and claws, but she stood tall, her eyes filled with both exhaustion and concern as she looked back at Emily. Emily slowly got to her feet, tears streaming down her face. She ran to Lily, scooping her up gently into her arms. "Lily, you saved me," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Her hand shook as she held the brave little cat, overwhelmed by gratitude and love. How could this small creature, once a forgotten stray, now be her fiercest protector? At that moment, Emily made a decision. She couldn't leave Lily and her kittens behind any longer. "You're coming home with me," she softly. "I promise to take care of you and your babies as if you were my own family." Without wasting any time, Emily carried Lily back to the hospital. Though she wasn't a veterinarian, her nursing skills allowed her to clean and treat Lily's wounds. Lily remained calm throughout, trusting Emily completely. That evening after her shift ended, Emily took Lily and her kittens home. Exhausted yet content, she felt a deep sense of peace knowing she was giving them a safe and loving home. As the taxi drove through streets bathed in the warm hues of sunset, Emily held Chloe, the kittens nestled securely in a box beside her. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt light. Life could be challenging and unpredictable, but in that moment, Emily knew she had found something truly special. The extraordinary bond between her and Lily wasn't built on words, but on acts of care and bravery. Lily, a stray cat with a heart full of courage, had transformed Emily's life forever. And in return, Emily vowed to give Lily and her family the love and security they had always deserved. Family. Did this story touch your heart? Have you ever encountered a stray animal in need of help? Do you believe that animals can truly find healing and trust again after suffering? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. Emily and Lily's journey shows us that no matter the struggles they've faced, love, care, and compassion can lead to a brighter future. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next video. Wishing you a wonderful day ahead.